When the heroes of the Justice League go missing and are assumed dead because of the events of Dark Crisis, it will be up to the young heroes of Young Justice to reunite once again. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Dark Crisis Young Justice issue number 1 and find out together, shall we? Alrighty then, so as we dig on into the book, we are once again at the big Hall of Justice memorial service for the dead Justice League. Internal monologue duties for this one are handled by Cassie Sandsmark, the Wonder Girl. She talks about how important Diana was to her. Cassie might have had a mother who loved her, but deep down she knew Wonder Woman was the only person who actively understood her. Then of course there's her team. Young Justice, the sidekick generation. Well, technically the second or third sidekick generation, depending on how you cut it for some of these characters. There's the Superboy, Connor Kent. Once the embodiment of laid-back, cool Connor seems to be lost in a drift the last couple years, and now with Superman gone, he really can't seem to find his footing. There's Tim Drake, the third Robin, the only Robin who picked the identity for himself, and the one who for one reason or another cannot ever seem to get away from it. And of course, who could possibly forget Bart Allen Impulse, a speedster with so much potential who never seems to be able to live up to any of it. And if that seems like a grim and nihilist Dick read on some of these fan-favorite characters, don't worry, because the entire book is like this for some reason. In fact, Cassie very astutely says that this isn't their first rodeo with Crises, yet for some reason her entire generation of heroes, basically the 90s sidekicks, always seem to end up getting the shortest, worst ends of the stick. Whenever a new crisis like this rolls around, they either end up dead or missing or stuck in the Speed Force or depowered or something like that. And I mean, well, yeah, that is certainly true and proof positive that as much as you love these characters, trust me, it's nothing that John or Yara or Jace have done to sideline them. DC does a perfectly good job sidelining their own characters, and have been for decades now. No, my problem with what Casey is saying here is that she's taking something as huge and universe-affecting as this next big Dark Crisis and somehow finding a way to make it all about her and her friends. After the funeral, the Young Justice team assembles and admits that they're having a hard time relating to each other anymore. They're like friends who went to different schools but come back for a reunion and realize they don't know what to talk about anymore. They're not alone either, as they're also rejoined by Sissy Joan King, a.k.a. Arrowette, a character who, God, it's been like, what, since early 2001 since we've seen her? And don't worry, Cassie doesn't let her forget that she hasn't been around and that she settled back into a comfortable civilian life by saying, "Where were you?" Jesus Christ, is everyone going to be the worst in this story? And the answer is yes, actually, yes they are. In fact, Connor tries to be the worst next. He asked the group that if they were ever to die again, do you think the world and the superhero community at large would remember them as well as they remembered Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, complete with their own statues? Connor does remember that when he died in Infinite Crisis, he literally did get a statue. I'm willing to give him a pass because he has that post-Bendis disorder, where no one actually seems to know what's in continuity with him anymore and what's not, but it seems like a really gross oversight in this Crisis story. None of this really matters though, because once Wonder Girl turns her back, the three boys end up disappearing. Where did they go? Well, it seems that they wake up in their own bedrooms. I'm personally quite a fan of Connor waking up back in Hawaii with old fan favorite Double X. Geez, haven't seen him in a million years. Dick, Bart, and Connor are told that there's a Young Justice emergency happening and that they need to get there to deal with it ASAP. It also becomes quickly apparent that no one else in the world seems to know about the Dark Crisis or the missing Justice League. Overall, they're not exactly sure what's happened to them. Did they travel back in time? Is this some sort of splinter universe? After checking his files on the Bat computer, Tim realizes that history in this world, wherever they are, pretty much matches the one from the main universe up until a point. Superman dies, Gotham gets cut off in no man's land, and Lex Luthor talks about possibly running for president. Tim says maybe this is the world as it was supposed to be. And again, okay, I get what you're doing. You're trying to pat longtime Young Justice fans on the back and saying that the world as it should be is the one where they all stayed together as a team and as friends, but still, that sounds so selfish coming out of the mouth of Tim Drake. You know, the world where we're happy must be the right and correct world, and every other world must be wrong. Now, back in the main universe, Cassie tries to get to the bottom of this missing persons case. The only problem is no one around her seems to care and actively keeps blowing her off the more she tries to investigate. Wonder Girl tries to get Arrowette to join forces with her and help solve this case like the good old days, but she ends up saying, once again, the worst possible thing you can imagine. I don't know what happened to the boys. They're probably off finding horrible coping mechanisms to process their fake dads being dead. I'm sure they'll be fine. They always are. Oh my god, what is wrong with you? Why is this book so angry and mean-spirited? And you know what? It actually gets worse too, because Cassie tries to go to the Flash for help. Obviously, Wally is trying his hardest to try and hold down the fort with the Justice League gone. But even he ends up being shitty and dismissive of Wonder Girl trying to find her missing teammates amidst this crisis. Cassie, I feel for you, but I do not have time for teen angst. You've got to let Bart grieve however he needs to, and if he's with Connor and Tim, that's probably the best for him. Christ, Wally, it's a good thing you stopped talking then any longer and you were gonna say, Cass is probably just on her period and acting emotional. Now, what threat was so big that it called for Young Justice to investigate over wherever the boys actually ended up? Well, it seems that it's a villainous threat posed by none other than the Mighty Endowed. For those who need a refresher course, this was one of the original 90s Young Justice villains. She was an archaeologist who used new god tech to, get this, hypnotize men with her breasts. No, I'm not joking. You're also probably wondering why she dressed like a cat. Well, originally she was supposed to be called Sex Kitten, but they changed the name at the last second because they didn't want to have the word sex in it. Here's the crazy part though, Connor, Tim, and Bart actually remember this adventure. They remember fighting this villain, because really, how could you not remember something as crazy as this? But what they don't remember is her being so damn strong. Some outside force has clearly given her a massive upgrade, and they're not exactly sure they can win this battle. It's only when things are at their very most desperate, though, does a savior end up showing herself, and it's the last person the boys ever could have considered coming to help them out. It's Cassie Sandsmark, Wonder Girl, only a younger version of her, which is also, ironically, the older version. And so that was Dark Crisis Young Justice issue number 1, everybody, and overall, I do not know what to make of this story. It feels like a book that is trying to do several things at once. It wants to be this wonderfully affirming Young Justice romp that lets you ride along with some of your favorite characters again the way you remember them, but on the other hand, it's just so bitter and aggressive. It brings all your favorite characters back together and then has them be assholes to each other for 22 pages. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certainly a germ of an interesting idea in this story. It is indeed true. The Young Justice generation of sidekick heroes do often find themselves punished by DC editorial come crisis time. And the book also sometimes tries to be a metatextual commentary on fan culture from that era and how they often feel left out, especially now, as a whole new generation of young characters are taking the reign, which officially makes that generation of Young Justice the old people, but also not really the oldest, because Nightwing and the original Teen Titans and Wally West are also here too, but they're being weirdly self-aware about the crisis and they don't really care about anything that's going on because they've been through it so many times and they know it's all gonna be okay at the end. Dark Crisis is a weird event is what I'm trying to say. Again, there's still time to save this story. Maybe the reason everyone is acting so out of character is because they're being affected by the Great Darkness or something. Maybe that's just me being wishful, I don't know. Overall though, I'd end up giving this one a 5 out of 10, mainly because, and I rarely say this was not fun to read. Hey there everyone, Kate Joel again, and I just want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. And hey, if you enjoyed the book I covered in this issue and want some comics of your own, might I recommend Book Depository? It's my #1 place for shopping for comic book trades. You get a great price, and if you use my link down in the description, you'll actually be helping me out at the same time. You get something, I get something, everybody wins, right? So until next time everyone, I've been Joel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.